The White House is confident Israel will accept a proposed Gaza ceasefire if Hamas agrees to it. The plan calls for a 6-week cessation of hostilities, a surge of humanitarian aid and an exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners before a permanent end to the war. The proposal, though, has met with vocal opposition from some members of Israel's government. The negotiations come as fighting continues in Rafah. Israel launched airstrikes over the weekend, forcing internally displaced Palestinians to flee again. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby says the US government has every expectation Israel will accept a Gaza ceasefire proposal if Hamas takes the deal, but progress will be slow.
Well, all you get in a yes right now, George, and it's not a small thing, but what you get is the start of phase one. So you get some hostages coming out, initial hostages, you get some calm, you get some more humanitarian assistance, maybe up to 600 trucks, and then the two sides can start talking about phase two.
With more, we're joined by our Global Affairs editor, John Lyons, in the studio with me. Hi, John. So why is the US so optimistic about this deal?
Well, Ros, I think part of that optimism is putting pressure on Israel now. They're realising that there is big pushback inside Israel. Not surprisingly, we've talked about that many times, those two far-right ministers in the government who hold the key to it. So on the one hand, Netanyahu's in a pincer movement. He has the United States on one side, as well as Benny Gantz, the former head of the military, who is giving him until June 8 to sort this out. And on the other side, he has those two far-right ministers, Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. So I think the United States is looking at the devastation there now. There's, so much of it's been destroyed. As you can see, 60-70% of buildings have been damaged or destroyed, 26 hospitals. It's almost unlivable now. And I think the United States is starting to think, what happens after this? What do you do with 2.3 million people who are essentially in an unlivable little strip of land? So I think that's partly the Americans putting pressure on Israel by saying they are optimistic.
What about Israel's conviction, though, that it won't stop hostilities until Hamas has been eradicated? That's something that, of course, Hamas is never going to agree to. So is this a sign that perhaps Israel is compromising a little bit on that?
Israel is continuing to push and say that we, for our own protection, let's not forget what triggered this latest war was the devastating atrocities by Hamas on October 7. And Israel's point of view, and I've been there 3 times, and the public is strongly behind the view that, and understandably, that never again can we allow Hamas to have the military capability that they had that wrought such destruction upon us. But can Hamas ever be destroyed? How do you destroy, Hamas, a guerrilla army, terrorist army, and essentially an idea and a philosophy of resistance?
Meanwhile, aid deliveries have dropped significantly into Gaza. What does that mean for life there?
Well, Ros, more devastating than ever. No aid coming in through Rafah crossing with Egypt because the Israeli army have sealed that off. Recently, Sydney psychologist Scarlett Wong visited with Doctors Without Borders and gave an incredible interview with SBS where she said that she noticed children who are frozen, and she didn't quite understand at first why these children can't speak. And she's now realised that when they're in the final stages of hunger before death, the children's emotions shut down, and she was finding children who couldn't speak or express themselves, frozen children who are dying.